Hello, so I guess this is completing the set of Carenado aircraft today in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is the Cessna 170B. It dates from the early 1950s and it was made in huge numbers, used as trainers and used in the military for reconnaissance work and delivery work, so it's known as the bird dog in the military variants. And it's really nice. So we're going to have a look at the Carenado version. We're at Boonville in the US once again. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning here, so the sun's just coming up over the hills over there. So we'll take it for a flight. So if we go and get inside, we can open the tablet, and that gives us access to turn on and off things like the static elements outside, get rid of the external power. We can show or hide the fairings on the wheels. We can close the doors here, but we can do that with the handles on the doors as well. And we get the option if we want a GPS unit within the aircraft or not. We'll leave it on just for a bit of fun so you can see it working. And let's go and close there's some shortcuts as well in the tablet to get the airplane ready for flight if you're not really interested in pressing buttons and turning knobs and switches and things. You can see the modelling is typical of Carenado. It just looks real. So we kind of take it for granted now, don't we, that they look very good. There's bits of dirt and mould around the place, and the actual interior is really nice and neat and tidied out. Obviously we can move around and look around in quite some detail at this if we really want to. Okay, so how do we get this thing started? We can click and remove the yokes as per normal, just so we can see what we're doing. So you've got the master power switch down here, which we will pull. We've got the beacon light switch here. We've got the navigation lights here. We will not need carb heat to start the engine, so we'll make sure we've got the wheel brakes. Also, the parking brakes are on. We will push the mixture all the way forwards. The reason that's moving on its own is because I've got it mapped to an axis on my throttle, obviously. We've got the throttle plunger here, so we can push that in just a little bit. Turn the magnetos to both and pull the starter. Let's just check the volume levels before we go much further. So yes, you can hear me over the engine, which is perfect. We'll also then, now we've got the engine up and running, we'll put the radio kit on. So we get we've got a nav radio and a com radio. It's interesting that we've got a nav radio because there isn't an HSI as far as I can see, or any sort of nav instrument. So up above there's nothing on the roof. You've got a temperature gauge up here, and obviously the fuel level for the wing and for the left wing. In high wing Cessnas, the wings are the fuel tanks. Yeah. So you can see actually really nicely modelled underneath the various vents and access panels. You can see also like the door into the engine where you would go and check things. It's got the door this side as well. It doesn't actually open, but you can't have everything, I guess. I mean, this airplane is incredibly reasonably priced. Okay, so if we go and get back inside, what are we looking for? We're just having a quick look around, really. We'll put the GPS on map mode just so we can see where we are in relation to the airfield. Not that we're going to fly very far. Okay, shall we take it for a fly then? There doesn't appear to be any fuel shut off. Oh, the fuel shut off valve is down here then, but it's already set to both on when you get in. It's not something you have to physically go and do, but you can change it. Okay, so let's remove the parking brake, set the flaps. We've got a very tight turning circle, so we can turn on our own axis basically. See what I mean? So you can see there from the tightness of the turning and the just applying the brake a little bit too hard there. It is unstable on the ground, you have to be careful with it. Okay, there's no wind here this morning. As is common with Carenado aircraft, you really don't have to look after the engine too much. So a little bit of rudder to hold it on the centre line. The natural view is quite downwards, but I think that's just the natural angle of the aircraft. So as we rotate, we come up and we can retract the flaps. Still gaining airspeed. Let's have a look at it in the air. It is very, very stable. So this is essentially the father of the C172, the classic Skylane Cessna. So this is kind of its direct ancestor. So we can scoot around the cockpit as per usual, and it's quite good visibility if you do effectively the same as leaning forwards in the real world. You can obviously see around the corner of the canopy there, past the wing route and out towards the airfield. It's not the fastest plane in the world, doing just over 100 knots, absolutely flat out. So let's just trim the aircraft. So let's have a quick look at the instruments. So we got cylinder temperature here, airspeed, attitude indicator, we've got the turn coordinator, altitude, a clock down here, vertical speed indicator, normal compass, magnetic compass, RPM, oil pressure, vacuum, carburetor temperature and oil temperature. Oh, and amperage. Ah, there's the nav radio. It was hiding. It's down on the co-pilot side. So everything's a little bit random in terms of placement. Obviously the 6-pack hadn't evolved by the time this came out. So yeah, the nav radio is down there then, so you can tune it over here. Should we have a play with it? So we'll just get us going along. Let's go and open little nav map and find out where we are. So we're just taking off from Boonville, 11230. Let's go and tune that in then. So on the nav radio, 11230, switch that to active, and we should get. So this is a modern instrument. This is not of its time really. So let's just turn the back around. So if we go and spin the omni-bearing selector around, yeah, so it just gives you basic direction and from and to. You haven't got any distance measuring equipment, but then you've got a GPS if you want it. I guess if you wanted to fly this of the era, you just switch off the GPS. Okay, while we're flying back downwind to have a look at landing at the far end, let's do some quick tests. So let's put the yoke back on while we're doing this. Okay, let's do it. Stall in a straight line, see how it goes. So I'm going to cut the engine back to 50%, feeding in back stick. It wanted to drop the right wing, but I could counter it and hold it steady. Let's see what happens in a turn. Let's just get a little bit of that altitude back. We get back up to 3,000 feet, and then we'll execute a left turn and stall in the turn on purpose. So we're just keeping an eye out below us. Just coming up towards 3,000 feet. Okay. So we'll go left turn. So it tucks under, but it's extremely stable, as you can see. Ooh, we got near the red line on the indicated airspeed then. What about a right turn? Does it do it as viciously? You would imagine it would be worse right because the propeller's turning right, so we'll find out. Almost as bad, so we'll tuck straight underneath. Okay, so here's the airfield. We'll loop back round. So it's completely predictable in stalling, which is why it was used as a trainer so much, I guess. It was designed that way, you know, to be stable. It has very good short field performance, I'm reliably informed from reading the notes about it, so we'll see how we get on. We appear to have no pilot and co-pilot. I imagine that's because of the tablet. So let's come back in here. Show. Oops, that's the door. Didn't mean to do that. So if we show the pilot and co-pilot, that doesn't reflect inside, but it does reflect from the outside. We now have the people inside it, and it's the Carenado standard people. Okay, so there's the airfield. I have no idea how this is going to go. I've not landed it yet. All I've done is sat on the apron with it and figured out where switches were. So just cut the throttle back to idle. I'm watching the indicated airspeed to see how quickly it loses speed, and it seems to be quite slippery. So let's go for some flaps. The notes talk about 40 to 50 knots stall speed. So oh, the simulator has just paused. That's really helpful of it. It always picks its moments, doesn't it? It's always on approach. Or invariably at a time when you'd rather it hadn't done it. There we go, it's released. Okay, so we are a little bit high. Let's see if we can side slip this to lose some altitude in a hurry. So we're just side slipping it around. It seems to like side slipping, doesn't it? Okay, let's release the rudder and just straighten it up on the ailerons and roll it in over the apron. Oh, a little bit misjudged on how far we were off the ground, so a bit of a bouncy landing. Let's go around again and try that again. See if we can do a better job second time. So flaps to takeoff position. And we'll have another go at that, shall we? do a bit of a Spitfire approach straight in over the apron this time, and just see if we can judge the drop down onto the runway a little bit better. A little bit high, a little bit fast, so again we are going to end up side slipping it in just to lose some speed and height in a hurry. Because of speed falling off. A little bit better, but obviously it needs a bit of practice. So you get the tail wheel on the ground, put some backstick in to hold the tail wheel against the ground, and then you can play games with, if you do have analog brakes, just applying them gently to avoid the nose going down. There we go, and we're just bringing it to a stop on the runway, just so you get a look at this. Gently does it. There we go. Parking brake on. And there you go, that's the Cessna C170 from Carenado. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the lettering on the side. It's probably my simulator playing up in this case, but you can see the flap does travel quite quickly. I'm not sure how realistic that is. Again, the modern ones I think are a little bit slower than that. But the actual aircraft works surprisingly well. Let's go and have a play of the lights. We didn't play with the lights, did we? So landing lights on, and yeah, they're quite bright. I presume the other one is the taxi light. So let's go and remove the yoke again. It doesn't appear we have a taxi light. Okay, we won't worry too much about that then. You would think it would be interesting. So it has it modelled, but it doesn't switch on. Oh well, you can't have everything, I guess. Right, there we go. The Cessna C170B. Well, let's go and shut the engine down and see if that cuts out as it should. So we pull the mixture back, and it starves the engine of fuel. And that happens, and then we can just turn the magnetos off. Obviously we're going to leave everything else on today. We're not doing this by the book at all, but it just gives you an idea of how it behaves. Okay, so yes, Cessna C170B from Carenado. Flies like a dream. Great fun to fly. And I'll probably be flying it soon. Okay, take care. See you soon.